Hi, guys. Thank you for joining us. The Artist's Architect. I think I want to start this off by obviously getting a little bit of context from all of you. I think we know a lot about what your artists have done. Um, and I think the focus here is more on how you kind of got into the spaces that you have gotten into today and where you're ended up. Um, Ishtar, you want to start?
Hi everyone, it's lovely to be here. Um, so I don't know if you all know anything about my professional journey, but I actually started out as a lawyer. I'm professionally a lawyer, and I was into corporate tax law, which was way far from music and intellectual property any which ways. And how I got into it is because I had to work on a project where I had to reduce the tax rate of musical instruments. So, whatever modern traditional instruments you're seeing, we helped basically reduce that tax rate, and that's how I got into that. It's a weird directive, but it helped me for sure. I got into intellectual property law after that because it made me feel more closer to arts and creatives. Then I realized the main crux and the problems of talent and artists are not getting resolved. And I thought getting into artist management was the only way. In the beginning, I started quite late. So I didn't know a lot about the industry, but thankfully I ended up with the right people. And yeah, that's how I'm here right now with Warner.
Beautiful. Thank you. Sid?
Hi. Thanks guys for being here. I think weirdly enough, I was in law school, and I was halfway through my law program and I realized books isn't for me for sure. And then I saw a show called Entourage and I was like, hey, wow, life would be great if we got to do this. And I did a little bit of a dipstick and I realized that there are people who live the same delusional like dream that I did in India. So I said, okay, let's go back and try doing that. And um I think the idea really was how do you work with like-minded people who are doing interesting things in culture, and not entertainment, but just like subculture. And how do you get to be part of that journey? Because I think that's a very direct, sort of impactful journey as well. And it's also fun. Also, I thought. So I gave up law school and started working with people. And I mean, to be honest, I don't regret a day of it. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
Amazing. Thank you. Shiva?
Hi, hi everyone. So for me, I would not necessarily call Masters an artist management company as we're an incubator, but for us, a huge draw to really working with artists is the fact that we help and create something from scratch. And for us, like that energy of starting something new is really exciting. But obviously, going by what Sid said, Onraj has played a huge factor in really inspiring us to look at this business as because traditionally my background comes from films. I worked at DreamWorks and Snap in the US, so but, it was nowhere close to music. From far from it. So yeah, it happened really by default. I think I've been lucky to have I guess a couple of my artists really drove me to be a part of this industry. There's a huge gap in the Indian music business where it was very disorganized. I guess right now we are slightly better, but traditionally managers are not educated in the music business, right? There's no formal music education over here. So it's coming back over here. It was a lot of unlearning, but today we've arrived at a place where I think the uh, knowledge that's available is freely available to everybody, and I think that allows the whole democracy of where the cards are equal for everyone, and that allows talent and people like young entrepreneurs like me to really get a chance to compete with big majors and other big talent management companies.
I love the look at Ishtar.
Only much louder. I don't know how many of you all know about, but almost 20 years back, um, they realized that the independent music scene was not well represented, and that's where the journey of artist management primarily started for us. I joined around 9 years back, knowing nothing about artist management. I was a pure salesperson, but I realized that if you can sell artists really well, you by default become managers because you just need to know them so well that you can ensure that they're able to get revenue. That's how my journey started. I used to sell research data before. I now head business, so I basically look at all business units, but at the same time, artist management being the core for OML has been really important for us to ensure that we are able to represent talent and their requirements and ensure that we grow with them. So yeah, that's what I'll be.
Okay, lovely. I mean, I think there's a lot of diverse stories here. And while you guys have kind of already touched upon this with regard to how you got into this and what your inspiration was, whether it's an entourage or whether it's actually taking from sales and working backwards, I do want to ask, what was it like? Was it like Entourage when you started out? What is the biggest switch from what you were expecting to what you got?
So we were, it's not the only inspiration of film didn't inspire my career. That's not what I meant. But I think it's a lot like it, but it's also a lot not. And I'll explain that. I think principally the premise of it is the same, right? Because I think when you look at when you're looking at artist management as a as like a career option, I think what are you trying to do? I think what you're trying to do is um, build build a business around a person, or like look at a person as a business, and then what can you do with that person, and how can you really create more buckets and avenues of revenue, like PK was saying, right? And I think that's the premise of what Entourage also was. Weirdly enough, Collective, at that time, we were also associated with CAA, which is one of the biggest companies in the world that does this. And I think at the time, I think that's also based on Entourage is also based on some of the people at CA at the time. So I think there was a lot of sort of resonance for us, and we also a lot of imbibed a lot of their culture into the way that we've structured things. So I think there was a lot of familiarity. We also met a lot of people who were part of the show. So I think we also learned a lot of how to deal with artists and how to structure a company. And I think the difference really is, like everyone here was saying, that we have a very we don't have an organized system to entertainment in India yet. I think we're getting there, but I think in different, whether it's music, whether it's comedy, whether it's creators, whether it's film, right? It's all very uh, segmented. It's all, everywhere. And I think what all of us are really trying to do is also really put a system to it. So I think that's the difference. The difference is that that's a system that exists. That's a system that has sense. That's a system that's also been there for a lot longer than we have. So when you came in here, you came in with this whole dream that you're going to be part of this glamorous life and everything's going to be set for you, and you're going to be, with the film stars, and then you come and you really get into the fun part of it, and it's not what you imagine, but it's also exciting to really be on that journey to get there. So yeah, I think that's the difference between that and today.
Okay. Prerna, I want to kind of direct this to you. We've all talked a little bit about how the industry is not exactly organized at that scale that we're talking about right now. Um, so I want to dial the panel back a little bit. What is artist management to you, and what does it take to be a manager in today's landscape?
For me, artist manager is someone who can actually um, understand what the artist's potential is, also their dreams, but at the same time provide them the path to achieve those dreams. I also very strongly feel that an artist manager should also be a mirror, where it's important to make the artist also understand um, how things are done. While there are dreams that you achieve together, how realistically you can also reach there is super important. And I think that is something that I learned very later in my career. When you're young, you get really enthusiastic and you're like, yes, ye bhi kar lenge, wo bhi kar lenge, ye bhi ho jayega, right? I think through these years, I realized it's very important to also see what milestones you sort of set with your artist at what stage of their career. See, you as an artist manager, you are part of an organization, or you are someone who is, has a job and things like that. This career for your artist is something that is theirs, right? So how you sort of don't look at it as a job, but at the same time, give them the right support is super important. So yeah, that is what I've learned, and that is what I feel is artist management. Three things that I always say are important is empathy. And I was just discussing that with Siddharth. I think in today's day and age, empathy is super important. Being realistic is super important. And being available is super important. So these are three things that define a talent manager for me.
Okay. Ishita and Shivam, I think building on what PK said as well, I think I do want to touch upon the difference between artist management and a lot of the other stakeholders in the creative ecosystem, right? Whether it's a label, it's a booking agent. Between both of you, do you think you could take us a little bit through how that's different from an artist's POV?
So just to add to what Prerna said, sorry, was that I feel that takes a lot of guts and vision. But besides that, the third most important trait of an artist manager, at least in my small journey, is that you need to be able and you need to like the taste of your own blood. Because you get so used to, there's a quote I read online, but you get so used to hearing no's, and you get so used to, and even from your own artist, right? You should be able to swallow that pill every day and show up, right? I think that is an important trait. Perseverance is something that is inbuilt in an artist manager. Obviously, add big balls and a vision, and then you have a very good cocktail for success. But obviously, empathy is super important. I believe in empathy, but we have a slightly more different approach. We are more realistic and more cutthroat and brutal in our company because we don't have we can't afford empathy in our company right now because we're so small. The talent that we manage are very, very big, some of them. So we have to be as real as possible with them. And obviously, we try to I wouldn't want to use the word sugarcoat, but sometimes it's about being as real as possible without really trying to keeping all that. There's a lot of noise, right? Talking about the other ecosystems. In the international sphere, you have agents, you have, lawyers who are as good as, managers. Over here, there's essentially, and it's changing, but you have usually it's a one man or one woman team around one artist. So you do need to start to like the taste of your own blood if you want to succeed, I feel.
Sorry, before you answer that, I do want to ask you, you said you can't afford empathy.
Not right now.
How does that translate with the relationship with your artists, right? Because I mean, there's
So,
cutthroat.
so most of the times in our case, the artist has chosen us rather than we have chosen. Like we don't go doing BD, so finding artists, right? We've been lucky in that journey where we're boutique in that nature. And because we're an incubator by approach, it's more of a marriage rather than a, hey, can I work with you? You know?
Understood. Thank you. It's that you were gonna answer.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what Prerna says as well. Additionally, so see, with me, I started my journey at an independent, one, two people. You were obviously a part of it. You are still a part of it. You're heading the company, of course, the artist management division. I started it there, so I have seen, and I was doing a dual role there. So I was also a lawyer, and I was also a talent manager there. So we have seen everything on how it starts. We have managed artists who are excessively commercially successful and who are also just starting out, budding artists, emerging talents. So I've seen all of that at the moment in 5 years of my journey. Now, when I'm with Warner, what Warner is trying to do is also um, create the same ecosystem there. Like we are now a 360 exclusive company too, where we manage talent directly. We also have our own live division. We have different structured teams, right? So obviously, independent. There are pros and cons to everything. And if you look at a wholesome situation, independent talents and agencies, they can be much more involved in the process for sure, but doors are getting open now, and everybody is realizing that we have to collectively work together as a community. Otherwise, you really can't survive, honestly. Music is such a niche industry that you genuinely need each other, regardless of whatever label independent conversation is. This is what I genuinely feel.
So I want to add here.
Yeah,
Like,
please do.
so at least in my experience, like labels today are technically a VC fund, right? For me, they're not really like, unless it's a sorry, but unless you're adding like true deep diving with the artist, building that relationship. At the end of the day, most of the decisions are made abroad, right? When it comes to big signings, big money, they're not made over here, right? So I think, like, especially in the local sphere here, I feel a bit, you have Ayushman over here as well, who's a very accomplished manager and agent, and he'll tell you that, I think he'll agree that the energy and the time and effort as an independent agency versus, I'm not comparing, versus someone who's doing this for a job, there's a different approach, which is why I would say that the empathy is slightly lacking here, because so it's an approach, right? It's a give and take. So I think when it comes to the systems today, the world has allowed us, and it's democratized everything, where we can go to any different distributor and distribute. You can go to multiple parties and you can have various promoters, and it's allowed, like, there's a lot of growth, and we're in a high growth phase right now when it comes to music. Lots of changes are happening. So I think it's a exciting, super exciting time to be an artist, but also an exciting time to be a manager.
Beautiful. I think we almost touched upon another debate that is in a whole other panel in itself here. But coming back to sort of the core of what we do as managers, Sid, do you mind walking us through the different streams of revenue that you focus on as a manager? But I want you to pay a little bit more attention to the skill sets that you think you developed for the streams of revenue that you're trying to create.
Right. So I think, there might have been a very stereotypical, straightforward answer to this a few years ago, wherein you would have said there's, of course, live revenue, there's brand revenue, and then there's sort of film revenue that's relevant to people who are part of that world. But I don't think today that that's sort of limited to 3 or 4 buckets. I think, at least the way that we do it at Collective, I think is, um, everything is so diverse in terms of just skill set, and I think any skill set can be monetized if you just sort of hone into it a little bit, right? So today for us, of course, you have the stereotypical revenue buckets, which are your brands, which are live, which are your, your OTT deals. It could be writing deals, it could be acting fees, it could be all of the stuff that's very stereotypical. But today there's a lot of, revenue that could be made from entrepreneurship. It could be made from, different sort of ventures that artists want to get into. It could be made from equity deals that you do with companies that you want to work with, right? And I think you're moving, at least now today, the way we see it really is, how do you move a creator from not only being someone part of someone who's part of content and monetizing content, but also getting into becoming a business owner, a businessman, and an entrepreneur, because I think that's really where also the economy is going. I think there are also revenue streams which are going to open up. I think social commerce is going to be huge in our country in a few months, if not in a few years. And I think, the disparity between how China or the West does it in terms of how they monetize their creators and their universe, the time gap is becoming smaller and smaller. So I think that a lot of stuff is going to open up. So there's not really any one vertical per se. I think the skill set really is exactly what PK said, right? It's really knowing your artist, knowing what they're good at, knowing what you can do with them, but really also keeping up to date with what's happening in the world of business. I think a huge skill set that I think a lot of artist managers today don't possess, and that's something that we try to learn every day, is how do you also become educated enough and knowledgeable enough as a businessman and also as a marketeer, because I think those are skill sets that really need to go hand in hand with operational expertise, which is what the assumption of being an artist manager is, right? So I think when you can unlock the business side and the marketing side to a person, whilst giving them the operational expertise that you should, I think that sets you apart. So I think that's the skill set that we am trying to sort of learn and incorporate really.
Okay. I want to also understand from each of you. This is all the side of management that I think we still talk about fairly often. Um, what is a side to artist management that people don't see as much? We've talked about the myths a little bit in the beginning, but let's say, what is the most unexpected role you've ever had to play as a manager? Ishita, I can see her dying to start.
I'd say a therapist for sure. I'm sure all of you will agree, include.
She's taken all our answers.
No, but it's also weird to say because we're not certified to be those. So it's also we don't know what we're getting into as well. But again, what Prerna said that you have to be a mirror to these artists and while having empathy for them. So because otherwise you'll get stuck in a rut. There is a time where it comes when you actually want to break through that pattern and grow forward. So yeah, that's I've been that person to a lot of artists as well, and hopefully I did a decent job.
Sorry, I'll add. I think I think it's very important to be two things for your artists. Is also I think like artists inherently are they're super ambitious. Most of them, they have a lot of ideas, which also brings a lot of insecurity to them, right? And I think a lot of artists are just generally um, like tuned a little differently. So I think just being a little bit of a sounding board, I think being a little bit of an anchor, being in their corner, and I think really also being that person who's finding a bridge between um, giving it to them straight, but also dreaming for them. Because I think just because of how much and what they deal with in public scrutiny or just being in the public eye, I think for them sometimes ambition gets overshadowed by everything else. So I think it's not like a one glove fits all. I think you have to do everything. You have to be a therapist, you have to be a mother, you have to be a brother, you have to be a friend, you have to be everything. It's a lot. But it pays off, I think, right? Because what tends to happen after doing this for so long is you really build a relationship with the person that's a lot longer, that goes a lot deeper than transaction. If you do it right. If you don't do it right, then
Good luck to you. But PK, I want to also understand from you. I mean, we've talked a little bit about these roles, and I'm glad it touched upon the relationship between an artist and a manager, right? How do you look at that, and how do you tread that ground?
It's very easy for you to basically become too attached to your artist, where you start gossiping, you try to do all those things that in a corporate world you should not. So I think it's super important while you do have a relationship of trust. And that's super important when you are working with a talent where talent needs to trust you and you need to trust the talent. But at the same time, that fine line can never be crossed where you have to always remember this is a profession, this is a job. At the end of the day, you are doing this for the love of the art, but it is a job. So keep reminding yourself that. I think that is really important. When that relationship, when you have with the artist, to also let them know that you're doing this together for a unified goal and it's not personal. So once you're understanding that, like there was a time where I used to get really impacted if an artist would behave in a particular way, and I think it took me some time. So I think it's important for you to also understand that it's just a job.
But okay, I mean, how do you walk that line, right? Because we've gone from therapist, mother, brother, father, to it's a job and it's professional, right? So, I mean, for all of you, to that extent, I know that you have to draw that boundary somewhere, but I want to understand a little bit more deeply how you actually make that distinction. Because once you know somebody in and out and they're calling you at whatever time of the day, whatever problem happens in their life, how do you keep yourself so detached from your artist?
It takes time. It takes a couple of years for you to get there, right? I'm not saying that a young manager today will be so nuanced to understand where that line is getting crossed. So, I mean, you also learn from your mistakes, right? And that time, as at least team leads, I feel it's super important for you to let them make those mistakes, right? But I feel communication is super important. Sometimes what happens is you feel, oh, artist ko bura lag jayega, bolna nahi chahiye ye. But communicate it, right? Don't send text messages, guys. That's the worst. Communicate by picking up the phone, talk to them, and it's okay. I'm not, there is no right or wrong here. There is no formula here. Artist management is not something where you've learned, right? It's something that you acquire, and it's something that you learn on the job. There is no course about artist management anywhere out there. If there is, please let us know. We'd love to send a few people there. But there isn't, right? So uh, I won't, I mean, there is no formula. I won't lie, it took me a couple of years. So it's just with experience that you realize.
Got it. I mean, since we have talked so much about the artist manager relationship, I think one of the more important things, and Shivam, I'd like to bring this to you first, considering that you've been talking a little bit more about how you're an incubator versus a typical management agency. What is it that you look for in artists that are joining you? I mean, also, you said you don't do BD, but when someone does approach you, how do you make the decision of saying, this is somebody I want to work with?
So, it goes back to what I look at for another team member, right? It's the vision and the guts. At the end of the day, how big is your vision? How hungry are you? Also, what are the values that you bring to the table? It's not about success all the time. A lot of the artists that we work with have had some sort of failure or have seen some sort of ups and downs in their life. So, for us, loyalty is something that is super important, and that's something that we figure out pretty early. At the end of the day, the stomach, like, it's built for some time. So I think it's allowed me to get an idea. At the end of the day, like, there's a huge gut feeling, at least when it comes to. I'm not gonna like try to say we have some formula to find an artist. We don't. But there's a huge amount of gut and instinct that plays an important part in deciding whether we want to work, because right, again, we're very boutique. We're not like any of these other companies over here that have like hundreds of team members and different verticals. We're very focused, right? When we sign an artist or a filmmaker, we try to build a business and try to make it as successful as possible. So our hit rate is slightly higher.
Understood. So that, would you say that's the same for you guys at Collective?
I think people have the wrong impression when they think collective. They think that we have 400 artists, which we do. But I think people don't know or don't factor in that. I think 70% of them have been part of the roster from day one, right? I think from our biggest Bollywood artists to our biggest musicians, to our biggest creators. Veer is an example. I've been working with Veer for 11 years now, right? So I think, the way that we've structured thing is, I think, like Shivam was saying, right? I think we've managed to give focus to different individual divisions to be able to do what they need to do, whilst allowing the company to do what they do, right? Because I think the way that we like to see it is, if you think of Amazon, right? You think of different sort of verticals of business, but you don't think of Amazon, right? So for us, Collective is the Amazon, because we have every vertical that other people are really doing, but we really go deep in each vertical. And um, I think that's what for us has worked, because we really build deep while also being able to go wide.
Um, Having said that, though, how do you deal with competition within certain subdomains, right? Let's say you have artists in the same genre, in the same division. As a manager, and I'm managing multiple people in that division, does it ever get tricky? And does that line ever get blurry?
You mean to say, if you have the same genre of artists, but you have multiple? So, I mean, like I said, right, when we started that, if you look at any big agency in the world, right, you look at UTA, you look at WME, you look at CA, they have 3.5, 4,000 artists on their roster. That doesn't mean that you can't give the right attention to the right person. I think it all boils down to structure. I think it's about how you build your team. It's about what team you put around an artist. I think we are very cognizant of who is working on which artist, and there's no overlap between our teams. We have large teams. We also have a large roster, definitely, but I think the proof is in the pudding. I think When you have 10 of the biggest, 20 of the biggest creators and all of them are doing well, when you have 10 of the biggest actors, they all are doing well, when you have 10 of the biggest musicians and they all are doing well, you're doing something right. Right. So I think that's also, ironically, that's one of the things that everyone keeps coming and asking us that, oh, well, that's such a big agency, we get lost. But the reality is that um, size also gives you a lot more in terms of just opportunity. And if you can structure size in a manner that works for the micro, then it's just advantageous to everyone. And I think we've managed to crack that so far pretty well.
No, absolutely. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think we are a little short on time, but before we wrap this up, I definitely want to ask each of you um, if you could give a young manager a piece of advice that you wish someone had told you when you were starting out, what would it be? Ishta, you want to go first?
When I started out, I was a little aloof, I would say, because I was not coming from the industry, but it made my life a lot more easier because I had no idea who was with me, who was rooting for me. I was just enjoying the work, and I think your first instinct should be just to enjoy the work. Always set some boundaries, but there has to be times where people will test you and they'll be like, okay, can do you have that in you to do this for us? Patience has gone a long way for me. I've become a very patient person. Become extremely calm, which has helped me make a very extensive decisions in my life. And my first mentor told me one thing: if you're nice and kind to somebody, they'll always be nice and kind to you. And guys, 80% of the time that has worked for me. So there was 20% of time where it didn't. But that's fine. We'll come to that later on another
This
panel.
panel is playing it very safe, guys.
I'll tell you about it if you see me outside, though. Happy to chat more about that.
Shiva?
If the only advice I would give to a young manager who's trying to get in is that today you have everything available in your hands. You don't need to you don't need to really sell your soul. And the same advice I would tell the manager to tell the artist that they manage. I think trust the process and also trust the art, because without the art, there's nothing.
Beautiful. Prerna?
Just remember one thing, that behind an artist, it's not only you, it's a team that is behind it, right? Never forget that. And it might sound harsh, but you're not bigger than your artist. So when you're out there, you're representing an artist. Represent the artist how you would want them to represent you. So in all your dealings, just remember that you're talking as someone's manager. So bring that A game when you're talking to anyone.
Thank you. Sid?
Put in the work, man. I don't think people. I don't think there's. I think the younger managers that at least I've experienced, I think just put your head down and work. It's not rosy. It's not going to be fun. It's going to be hard work, long hours. It's like the cliche says, underpaid, undervalued. You're going to hate it for a while, but that's life. And once you get through the first few years, you're going to see the fruit of your labor. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to, you're going to learn a lot. I think artist management is the most diverse sort of education that one can get, because you're dealing with everything. But you need to put your head down and you need to work hard, because there's no two ways about that. I think what everyone else said is so pertinent about just being who you should be as a person. But if you're a young manager coming into the system, uh, don't tell me I don't work on Saturdays. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I missed one thing. Learn to read contracts. I think that's so.
I want to add on top of
Absolutely.
both these points. Like, I'm not a lawyer by profession like any of them, but I've had to be over the last few years. Actually become a lawyer and really understand that. But and one more thing, just to add to what Sid said, was that this is one role where you'll get a chance to do multiple types of you get to try your hand on different opportunities. And so, like, yes, there are some nice moments where you're making lots of money and doing some sexy shit, but you also have those moments where, like, even I've been an artist's driver in the past. I've picked up their clothes after them. I've had to put them down, like, all kinds of shit, right? At the end of the day, you need to be open-minded and you have to work on Saturdays.
And Sundays, let's not forget. Um, I think all of these aspects that you guys have highlighted are beautiful, and I think we've really laid some sort of a framework here. However, I do think we played it very, very safe. And so, one more question for this panel. Okay, I'll be kind. But if you guys could change one thing about how the artist management industry works today, rewrite the rules, what would that one thing be?
I'm going last.
He said it first.
Standardized commission model.
Controversial.
I disagree with that.
I don't know which one of you to come at first.
I feel today as an artist manager, like you have the chance to earn in multiple ways and not just a standardized commission. So now is a time where you can actually be a part of have real skin in the game. So
But I think you're saying more if the services are the same,
Yeah.
then in that.
I mean, likes to likes is where I'm comparing it to be. But yeah, I mean, it's something that I
so I
would
want a
wishful
standardized
thinking.
commission. I'm like,
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to change?
no, I think I think it's a fair, even playing field today for everybody. So I think whoever is good will survive.
Okay. Survival of the fittest. Ishita?
Okay, I think in the beginning it's fine, but I think we could stop a little bit of gatekeeping throughout the process. I think it's fine, you guys.
Cheers.
To take a chill.
Sid?
Uh,
You ought to go last also. Now it has to
yeah,
be juicy.
see, no, it's not juicy at all. Actually, it's very boring. But I think I think coming together as an industry, I think competition is great. It's fun. Just being able to do what you do every day and just the turmoil of it is great. But I think what would be nice is just putting guardrails for us, because we are the people who are really, what is our job, right? Our job is to go and make sure that they are having the best life and we are giving wings to their dreams, right? But a standardization of certain processes, a way of working, a system to it, that just allows us sort of professional guardrails, tells us what and how things should happen, and then you have your fun in the middle of it. I think some certain systems would be nice, so that all our lives become a little bit more uh, sort of structured.
Yeah, I think between everything that everyone here has said, structure is the main thing that I think we're all trying to get to. But thank you guys so much